I'm about to give you the secret sauce to simplify the color selection process. You don't need to pick a color for every room in your house. Just use one paint color for your entire home, at least to begin with. As a color consultant and product specialist, I always find myself caught in between the two worlds of practicality and perpetually chasing trends. Specifically when it comes to paint colors, there's so many variables that need to be taken into consideration. You start with your own personal taste, maybe you dabble in some new trendy colors that are becoming quite popular, and then you look around the room you're thinking of starting with, and maybe realize that you need to tie in furniture and flooring. Maybe you also want to take into consideration what your vibe of the space is supposed to be. Do you want it to feel more calm and serene, where you can relax? Or maybe more fun and invigorating? Then you gotta go get samples and test them out. Ideally on a mighty board, so you can at least have a much bigger sample size than those tiny little swatches you get at the paint store. You go through all of that effort, time, and some money, and that was just the powder room. There are many ways to go about picking colors for a house, or an apartment, wherever you live. Oftentimes, I find that people that I know, friends of mine, they tend to just go room by room, which I get. Every room is going to be a little bit different. It's going to have slightly different furniture and fixtures and all of that stuff. But I always find it useful to take a step back and zoom out your scope, taking in the entire floor or even house into consideration. The easiest way to do this is to just start with one color that you're theoretically going to use in every single room in the home. A color that would suit the hallway, the family room, even the laundry room. This would then become your main color, or essentially your default template. When you simply start with one solitary color, not only are you making the color selection process easier, but you also have essentially guaranteed that the overall flow of color from room to room will be perfect, because that main color is going to continue throughout. A few quick tips on picking a solid main color is it should be fairly light with an LRV or light reflectance value around 60 or higher. That'll allow it to still work nicely in those more dimly lit areas, and you would typically want it to be fairly neutral or subtle in its undertones. Anything that's overly saturated with color might look great in some areas, but a bit wonky in others. Once you've decided on a color that fits this sort of framework, you've completely simplified the entire process, because now you just have the one color to think about rather than 15 or 20. I think this approach would help so many of my friends, because a lot of them end up obsessing over the most minute, undetectable details and differences between the undertones of colors A, B, and C, undertones that they wouldn't even recognize in real life with their own eyes. That doesn't necessarily go for everyone, of course, but it does happen. You might be thinking, James, I love color. Why would I limit myself to just one? You don't have to. The beautiful thing about picking your main color is it doesn't have to be your only color. It's merely establishing that base that you can then build off of. Think of your main color as the major artery of your interior color design, and then later on you can start adding on little capillaries. Can you get a pronunciation check on capillary or capillary? What I like to do is take that main color around on your tester board and view it in different rooms. Once you get to a spot where you feel compelled to change the color and want something a bit different, just make a little note of it. That room, for whatever reason, can be painted with a different color. Maybe you have a beautiful area rug and you want to extract a turquoise from it and apply it to the walls. Whatever the case may be, only when you feel that urge to make a specific color choice should you deviate from your main color. So which areas of a home would usually fall into main color category versus secondary color territory? Typically speaking, the main hub of your house, like your front foyer, hallways, even living dining rooms and more open concept areas, those will be main colors more often than not. The rooms that are more sectioned off and isolated, perhaps away from different sight lines, those increasingly become better candidates to change things up color-wise. The most common place for color differentiation are going to be bedrooms and bathrooms, mainly because they all have a doorway that will close them off in case you really want something big and bold, but not detract from the cohesiveness of your overall interior design. You don't need to follow these rules, but it's always handy to know some of them before you go and break them, because then it's an intentional design choice that suits your personal taste and preference. Just start with one color first, and then layer and build on top of that. It works for me on virtually all of my projects, and hopefully it'll help you as well. you can check out a video we did right here that talks a little bit about the importance of working with your floors. Very, very important stuff there.